Chaudhry Musawwir Sharif Sandhu, lecturer at the Department of Pakistan Studies, Virtual University of Pakistan, welcome you all to the third lecture of the course that is Ideology and Constitution of Pakistan. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the decline of Muslim rule in the subcontinent and War of Independence 1857. And in today's lecture, we shall talk about educational awakening of Indian Muslims, the Aligarh movement. Dear students, before talking about the lecture, I shall make you aware of the micro learning outcomes कि इस लेक्चर में आप जिन चीज़ों के बारे में सीखेंगे उनके बारे में मैं आपको बताने जा रहा हूँ. Students will be able to recall the causes of Muslim educational backwardness after 1857. The second micro learning outcome is that the students will be able to understand the role of Aligarh movement and Islamia College Peshawar in promoting modern education among Muslims. Dear students, the third micro learning outcome is that the students will be able to analyze the impacts of educational reforms on the intellectual awakening of the Muslims of subcontinent. My dear students, now we shall begin our lecture with the introduction. After the War of Independence in 1857, the Muslims of India were in a very bad condition. They had lost their political power and their economic strength. But the biggest problem was their educational backwardness. Without modern education, they could not get government jobs, could not understand the new British system, and could not compete with other communities who were moving ahead. This section explains the educational problems of Muslims and the effects and efforts made to solve these problems through the Aligarh movement and the establishment of Islamia College, Peshawar. Now, the problem of educational backwardness. Before 1857, the Muslims had their own traditional education system. They studied Persian, Arabic, Islamic law, and religion in madrasas. This system had worked well for centuries because Persian was the official language of the Mughal court. Muslim boys who studied in madrasas could easily get jobs in the government or became respected members of society. But after the British took full control of India, they changed everything. They replaced Persian with English as the official language. They introduced a new education system based on Western knowledge. Schools teaching English, science, and mathematics were established in all major cities. The problem was that most Muslims refused to join this new system. They had two main factors and two main fears as well. First, they thought English education was a way for Christian missionaries to convert their children. Second, they believed that Western knowledge would destroy their Islamic values and culture. My dear students, this refusal to accept modern education had very bad results. The Hindu community, especially in Bengal and Bombay, quickly took advantage of English education. They got most of the government jobs, joined the legal profession, and entered modern business and trade. But Muslims stayed away and became more and more backward. My dear students, the situation was so serious that a British government report from 1886 documented the shocking facts. In 1871, the proportion of Muslims to Hindus in government appointments was less than one seventh. By 1880, it had fallen to below one-tenth. The report also showed that in the Foreign Office staff of 54 officers, only two were Muslims. In the Finance and Revenue departments, with 75 officers, not a single Muslim was employed. In the Office of Accountant General of Bengal, out of 181 officers, there were not one Muslim employed. This was happening even though Muslims made up one third of the population in Bengal and in the same districts were two-thirds of population. Dear students, by the 1870s, Muslims were very few in government services. They could not compete for jobs because they did not know English and did not have modern education. Even in areas where Muslims were in majority, like Punjab and Bengal, they were far behind Hindus in education and employment. This educational backwardness created a vicious cycle. Without education, Muslims could not get jobs. Without jobs, they remained poor. Without money, they could not educate their children. The community was trapped in poverty and ignorance. Dear students, there was another dimension to this problem. The British also changed the language policies in a ways that harmed Muslims. Before 1857, Persian was the official language in many parts of India. When the British replaced Persian with Urdu, written in Persian script, it worked well for Muslims. But later on, there were attempts to replace Urdu with Hindi written in Nagari script in some regions. This created great discontent among Muslims. More importantly, when English became the language of government and courts, Muslims who only knew Persian and Urdu lost their jobs. Another problem was that traditional Islamic education had become outdated. It did not teach science, mathematics, history, or modern languages. Students learned things that had no use in the modern world, but at the same time, completely leaving Islamic education would mean losing their religious identity. Muslims needed a solution that would give them modern knowledge without sacrificing their faith. The solution and the situation of Muslims were so bad that some British observers noted that there was scarcely government office where a Muslim could hope for any post above the rank of a porter, messenger, or filler of ink pots. This was the condition of a community that had ruled India for centuries. The situation was so bad for the Muslims at that time. Dear students, now we shall talk about the Aligarh movement and the role of Sir Syed Ahmad Khans, who contributed enormously for the uplift of the Muslim community. The man who understood this problem better than anyone was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He was a Muslim scholar and reformer who had worked for the British and had seen both worlds. After 1857 rebellion, he thought deeply about why Muslims had fallen so low and what could be done to lift them again. Sir Syed believed that education was the only solution. He said that Muslims must learn English and modern sciences while also keeping their Islamic beliefs. He started what was now called the Aligarh movement to achieve this goal. First steps: Scientific Society and translation works. In 1864, Sir Syed started the Scientific Society in Ghazipur. The purpose of this society was to translate Western books on science and modern subjects into Urdu. He wanted to make modern knowledge available to Muslims who did not know English. The society also published two journals, the Aligarh Institute Gazette and Tehzeeb-ul Akhlaq. Though these journals, Sir Sayyid told Muslims that Islam was not against science and modern knowledge. He argued that the Quran itself encourages Muslims to learn and think. He said that blind following of old customs was the real enemy of Islam, not modern education. The Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, that is famously known as MAO College. My dear students, Sir Sayyid's greatest achievement was the establishment of MAO College at Aligarh in 1875. This college was his dream come true. The college had a very special purpose. It would teach Western subjects like English, science, philosophy, and history, but it would also teach Islamic studies, Arabic, and Persian. The idea was to create a new generation of Muslims who knew both worlds, who understood modern knowledge but remained proud of their Islamic heritage. The college was modelled on Oxford and Cambridge universities in England. Sir Sayyid wanted it to have the same high standards. He raised money from wealthy Muslims and also got support from the British government. In 1877, Lord Lytton, the Viceroy of India, laid the foundation of the college. All India Mohammedan Educational Conference. My dear students, in 1886, Sir Sayyid started the All India Mohammedan Educational Conference. This was an organization that held meetings even every year in different cities of India. Muslim leaders, educationists, and reformers would come together to discuss the problems of community and find solutions. The conference did a lot of good work. It encouraged Muslims to start schools and colleges in their own cities. It raised funds for scholarships. It created awareness about the importance of modern education. Slowly, the message of Aligarh movement spread to all parts of India. Now the question is, my dear students, that why Aligarh movement was so important. The Aligarh movement was not just about one college. It was a complete movement for the revival of Muslims. This movement gave Muslims a new confidence and a new direction. It showed them that they would be modern without losing their identity. The movement produced a whole generation of educated Muslims who later became leaders of the Pakistan movement. People like Liaquat Ali Khan, who became the first Prime Minister of Pakistan, were produced of Aligarh. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah himself praised Aligarh and called it the arsenal of Muslim India. Some people criticized Sir Sayyid for being pro British, but we must understand the time in which he lived. After 1857, Muslims were in no position to fight the British. They first needed to become strong through education. Sir Sayyid believed that cooperation with the British was necessary for survival. His policy was practical, not just loyal. My dear students, now we shall talk about Islamia College Peshawar, that is also regarded as the Aligarh spirit in the frontiers. Dear students, the success of Aligarh inspired Muslims in other parts of India to start similar institutions. One of the most important was the Islamia College Peshawar, established in 1913. Now the question arises why there was a need for a college in the frontier. Northwest Frontier Province, now known as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, was created in 1901. At that time, there was only one college in the whole province, Edwards College, which was run by Christian missionaries. Muslim students who wanted higher education had to go all the way to Aligarh or Lahore. This was very difficult for poor families. So that's why there was a need for the establishment of the college in the frontier region. Now, the founders were Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum Khan and Sir George Ross Keppel. The man who took the lead was Sahibzada Abdul Qayyum Khan. He is called the Sir Sayyid of the frontier because he did for the Pathans what Sir Sayyid did for the Muslims of India. He was greatly inspired by the Aligarh movement and wanted to bring its benefits to his own people. He got full support from Sir George Ross, who was the British Chief Commissioner of the province. Ross Keppel was a wise officer who understood that the educated Muslims would be better partners for the British than ignorant ones. Together, they worked to establish a college that would serve the Muslims of the frontier. Now we shall talk about the establishment of the college. Dear students, Islamia College Peshawar was established in 1913. Its purpose was the same as Aligarh, to provide modern education to Muslims while preserving their Islamic identity. The college taught English, science, and arts along with Islamic studies. The college was built on a beautiful campus of 300 acres near the historic Khyber Pass. It had large halls, a mosque, hostels for students, and playing fields for sports. Students from all over the frontier province came to study there. Now the question arises that what is the connection between Aligarh and the Islamia College Peshawar? The connection between Islamia College and Aligarh was very strong. Many of the teachers at Peshawar were graduates of Aligarh. They brought with them the spirit of Sir Sayyid and his message of modern education. The curriculum was also modeled on Aligarh. In fact, when Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah wrote his will, he mentioned three institutions that should receive his property: Aligarh Muslim University, Islamia College Peshawar, and Sindh Madrasa Karachi. This shows how important he considered these institutions for the Muslim community. Dear students, now we shall talk about the role of the Islamia College Peshawar in the Pakistan movement. Islamia College Peshawar played a big role in the struggle for Pakistan. Its students and teachers actively supported the Muslim League. They spread the message of Pakistan in the frontier province, which was otherwise dominated by the Congress and nationalist parties. The college produced many leaders who worked for the creation of Pakistan and later served the new country. Sahibzada Khurshid, the first student admitted to the college, later became the first governor of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa after independence. At that time, this province was known as NWFP. Now dear students, we shall talk about the impact of educational reforms. The educational reforms started by Sir Sayyid and carried forward by the institutions like Islamia College Peshawar had a huge impact on the Muslim community. For instance, the intellectual awakening of the Muslims, political consciousness, spread of education, and preservation of Islamic identity. We shall discuss all these impacts one by one. Talking about the intellectual awakening first. Dear students, first and foremost, these reforms created an intellectual awakening among Muslims. For the first time after 1857, Muslims started thinking critically about their problems. Sir Sayyid encouraged Muslims to use reason and rational thoughts. He argued that Islam was not against science and modern knowledge. He said that the Quran itself encourages Muslims to learn and think. Though his journal Tahzibul Akhlaq, Sir Sayyid spread his message far and wide. He challenged the orthodox mullahs who said that modern education was haram, forbidden. He gave Muslims a new way of thinking about their religion and their future. This movement gave Muslims a new confidence and a new direction. It showed them that they could be modern without losing their identity. My dear students, now we shall talk about the political consciousness. The second, these institutions created political consciousness among Muslims. Students who graduated from Aligarh understood how the British system worked. They knew English, they knew law, and they knew politics. They could represent Muslim interests effectively before the British government. In 1886, Sir Sayyid founded the Muhammadan Educational Conference. This organization held meetings every year in different cities of India. Muslim leaders, educationists, and reformers would come together to discuss the problems of the community and find solutions. This conference became a platform where Muslims learned to think collectively about their future. Mohammedan Educational Conference was so important that it eventually became All India Muslim League in 1906. This was political party that would later lead the movement for Pakistan. So the educational movement started by Sir Sayyid directly led to the creation of Muslim League. My dear students, now we shall discuss about the spread of education, that is also an impact of these educational reforms. The third one, these educational institutions encourage the spread of modern education to all parts of India. Following the Aligarh model, Muslims established schools and colleges in Lahore, Karachi, Dhaka, and many other cities. The movement became nationwide. One of the most important institutions that followed the Aligarh model was Islamia College Peshawar. Established in 1913, Islamia College Peshawar became a symbol of Muslim awakening in the frontier province. It provided modern education to Pathan youth who otherwise had to go all the way to Aligarh or Lahore. The college also resolved what was called the dichotomy between secular and religious education. It taught modern sciences while preserving Islamic values. Now we shall talk about the preservation of Islamic identity. Dear students, the most important of these reforms showed that Muslims could be modern without losing their Islamic identity. Sir Sayyid's message was clear. Muslims did not have to choose between their religion and the modern world. They could have both. This was the greatest gift to his community. Aligarh College taught Western subjects like English, science, philosophy, and history, but it also taught Islamic studies, Arabic, and Persian. Students who graduated from Aligarh were proud Muslims who also understood modern knowledge. They could compete with anyone in the modern world while remaining true to their faith. Dear students, the educational backwardness of Muslims after 1857 was so serious problem that threatened their very survival. But through the efforts of great reformer like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and institutions like Aligarh Muslim University and Islamia College Peshawar, the community slowly recovered. These educational reforms laid the foundation for the political awakening that would eventually lead to the creation of Pakistan. As Stephen P. Cohen says, in the idea of Pakistan, without the educational revival started by Sir Syed, there might have been no Pakistan movement at all. My dear students, now we shall come to the concluding remarks. So, to conclude, the educational backwardness of Muslims after 1857 threatened their very survival. Without modern education, they lost jobs, economic position, and political voice. The Aligarh movement, led by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, provided this solution. By establishing MAO College, he showed Muslims they could embrace modern knowledge while preserving Islamic identity. This message spread across India. Islamia College Peshawar, founded in 1913, brought the Aligarh spirit to the frontier. It provided modern education to Pathan youths and produced leaders who actively supported the Pakistan movement. Together, these institutions created intellectual awakening and political consciousness among Muslims. They transformed a defeated community into one that could demand its rights. As Stephen P. Cohen observes, in the idea of Pakistan, without this educational revival, there might have been no Pakistan movement at all. My dear students, thank you so much for patiently listening and attentively listening to the lecture. We shall I shall see you in the next lecture of this course, that is Ideology and Pakistan. Once again, take care. Allah Hafiz.